Hi everyone, what's up? I've been shopping. Now, as a coffee lover, it's one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time. Which are the best coffee beans to buy?
Which are the best coffee beans to buy? Which are the best coffee beans to buy?
And my usual recommendation is that you purchase freshly roasted coffee beans from your local coffee roaster. Or even online, there are loads of availability for delivery straight to your door. But of course, not every one of you has access to local coffee roasters or the time or money to experiment with specialty coffee beans. So I've taken it upon myself today and I've explored the shelves of Coles, Australia's biggest supermarket of course, and I've come up with 12 bags of beans that I want to see which are worth sipping and which are worth skipping. Now, to keep things fair and consistent, I've decided to focus on medium roasted coffee beans for this taste test. So I haven't included any bags that solely advertise full-bodied, strong or dark roast. That's just not my jam. Now, there were no single origin or light roast beans on offer, which would be more to my liking. But what I am looking for today in terms of flavour in the cup is perhaps finding some sweetness, maybe some enjoyable fruit like acidity, so brightness, and certainly no over-the-top harsh bitterness or dry ashy flavours. But I do hope there will be some enjoyable flavours in the cup. Now, the plan is to dial each espresso in using the same brew recipe, unless the bags suggest otherwise, and it will begin as a head-to-head, so A versus B, and it will end up with 3 cups battling it out for the top spot at the end of this video. And these will be blind tasting each round, so I won't know which cup is which bag of beans, but you will. If you're interested in more of these comparisons or just want to know more about making espresso at home, certainly subscribe to our channel as it helps our channel grow. And at the end of this video, if you've enjoyed it or found it helpful in some way, go ahead and smash that like button. All right, enough with the chit chat. I'm getting thirsty. Let's begin this. Two espressos. Give them a quick stir each. There we go. Let's try this one first. Okay, I can see where that's kind of like a medium body. It's quite smooth, kind of dark chocolate. There's a hint of bitterness to it. It's got quite a nice sweet aftertaste to it, which is okay. It's not blowing the top off, but yeah, no, I'd say, well, that's the first coffee I've tried today. It's pretty standard. Yeah, there's a hint of sweetness in there. There's a lingering kind of sweetness to it, which is nice. Yeah, it's kind of nudging on the heavy body, but no, I would say that's kind of buttery. That's nice. All right, let's give this one more quick stir. Real bright, real sweet, super sweet and bright right up front. Little grassy, but not too bad. That's quite enjoyable. That's sweet. This would be the winner by far. Buttery, smooth, creamy, nice, but it's fairly full-bodied. This is just sweet, lingering, little grassy, but nothing that's like unpleasant. Yeah, this one goes ahead. Next. Ta-da! The next two. Ooh. I went down the wrong pipe almost. It's not overly bitter. It's still medium, so it's not like punch in the face. It's not, I wouldn't say it's particularly full-bodied, but it's not buttery either. It's a little bit more rough around the edges than buttery. Yeah, there's not a lot of sweetness in this at all. No hint of acidity. It's quite woody, medium bodied still, but nothing kind of jumps out at me as being super enjoyable. It's not terrible, but it's not super enjoyable either. Grassy again, like the other one. I would say it's a much lighter flavor, or I would suggest roast even than this one. This was kind of medium body, not very creamy, woody. This is leaning on the grassier side of things, kind of like a pale ale if I was talking beers. But which one do I enjoy more? This one's sitting with me a little bit better. It's just lingering that little bit more with its sweetness. So I'm gonna go this one. Round 3, feeling the buzz. Feeling the buzz already. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. So there's a bitterness to this to begin with, but it's not an unpleasant bitterness. It's like 70% chocolate. Then it kind of cruises on through to a sweetness through the body. It's enjoyable. I would say out of all the darker, more heavily bodied coffees that I've already enjoyed, this is probably my favorite of those anyway. And most of those I've probably put aside now, but this has been the most enjoyable of all of these. It's not a terrible coffee. It's quite smooth. Not a lot of acidity to it. There's a hint of sweetness and a very balanced bitterness. When I say balanced, it's like it's a pleasurable bitterness. It's not a in-your-face harsh bitterness. I wouldn't say it's very strong, nor is it kind of fruity or acidic either. It's quite middle of the road with everything. Not a lot of body, not a lot of sweetness, not a lot of acidity. And if it is there, there's a hint of it, but it vanishes really quickly. It's really clean. But I would say almost what's more enjoyable out of these two? Oh, that's a tough one. It's probably this one. Yeah, just kind of sits well with me a little bit better than this one. Next, round 4. Cheers. Not terrible. Similar to the last one I enjoyed, it's still very full-bodied, not a lot of acidity or sweetness to it. It's more chocolates. It seems to be the way, even on a medium roast, more chocolates. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. Definitely chocolates. Oh, there's a hint of something else there, like nougat or something, but it's not super overly sweet nor acidic. It's just chocolates. Okay. Much lighter bodied with more sweetness. It seems like when there is less body, there seems to be a little bit more sweetness being able to like kind of break out through the crust of the body. Yeah, this is much lighter body, nice sweetness, again, I think this is more buttery, definitely creamy, and definitely the winner out of these two by far. Round 5. Ooh, that's a lot of espresso so far. This would be the first bitter one I've gotten. Just not enjoyable. This was the first bitter one, for sure. Just bitter. Just gonna leave that one there. This is a tough round. This is a really tough round. I don't think I want to choose either, but I guess I have to. This one was just bitter, but it's palatable. This one, not as creamy as this one. This one maintains that bitterness, whereas this one kind of tails off a little bit. So it's the better of two evils on this round. I'm going this one. All right, last espressos of the first round. Little bitter. Hint of acidity in it though. Yeah, it's not as full-bodied as some, but there is that hint of bitterness to it, but it's kind of like balanced up with just a slight acidity sliding in there at the back end of the bitterness. It's not too bad. That's okay. That's okay overall. It's not a terrible, terrible coffee. Could be a lot worse, like the last round. All right. All right, let's see if I can get this coordination going. Stirring, drinking, cleaning spoon, sipping. Not as much bitterness as this one. A little more nutty, so it's a little bit smoother. There's not as much bitterness. Like there's not as heavy chocolates forwards. It's kind of like smooth, creamy, nutty, but also a little bit of chocolates as opposed to this one. This is just straight up kind of bitterness with a tiny little bit of acidity in the background. I would probably just choose to drink this one over that one as, again, just, I guess, the best of two evils. So I'm putting this one forwards, and that's the end of the first round. Now we move on to semis. All right, 12 bags of espresso down, which means 12 espressos I've just drunk. It's been a minute on this video, but I've given it a whole day. I was coming pretty close to having an espresso attack. Also, I'm just giving my taste buds a little bit of a break. We've gone 12 bags, we've now got 6, so this is the second round right here. Let's begin. I would not recommend to anybody to drink 12 espressos back to back, ever. All right. Ooh, I'm feeling fresh, I'm feeling good again. This tastes nice. There's a nice little acidity in this right up front. Bit of creaminess again. It's smooth. Yeah, there's quite a lot of brightness on top of the tongue. I wouldn't say it's full-bodied at all. There's quite a lot of pronounced brightness in this, which is delicious. This is an enjoyable cup of coffee. Probably just a fraction more than this cup in terms of its brightness. Probably more so its sweetness. Like there's similar acidities, a little bit more sweetness in this cup, and probably a little bit more texture, which is kind of giving it some more body, which is fine. It's not like a heavy cup of coffee. It's not a heavy bodied coffee, but the fact that it has that body to it is kind of like giving the sweetness some longevity in the cup, kind of lingering over the cup, lingering over the tongue a lot more. This is an enjoyable cup of coffee. Let me just quickly double check on this one. Nice and bright, quite bright, both fruity cups. This just has a little bit more oomph to it, a little bit more texture, much more sweetness in this one. I'm pushing this one forwards. Next round. All right, richer, a little bit darker than the previous round of espressos. Not as much acidity, much more heavier body through, but still kind of creamy and mellow, not like over the top heavy body at all or anything. And I imagine this round it's going to be a little bit harder between the coffees as they kind of, I guess, thin out to be more similar, I guess. Nothing's really jumped out at me in terms of flavors though. I haven't tasted anything that's particularly nuanced in its flavors, but that's probably expected because these are all blends of coffees and not single origin coffees. So you're going to get what tends to work better in milk coffee as opposed to drinking it straight black. But from a barista's perspective, if it tastes good as an espresso, it's going to taste good in milk coffee. Okay, wow, that's much gentler. There's much more pronounced sweetness in this cup than this cup is. This is quite straight away kind of signifying there's body in it. This is much mellower, a lot sweeter, not as bright an acidity as this one, but again, there's no body. So this has an acidity tailed onto the body where there's no acidity in this cup. And when I say there's an acidity in this, it's less enjoyable because of the body. Whereas this, there's no acidity, but there is just a sweetness and a mellowness to this cup of coffee. Yeah, a fruitiness almost. There's a fruitiness in this cup where there isn't in this cup. So this one will go forwards. All right, here we are. Final round of 3 espressos. Not a lot of sweetness or acidity. It's more kind of a solid body of chocolate up front and lingering. Yeah, there's a slight bitterness to it that kind of hints to some acidity behind that, but it's pretty full-bodied, I would say. Well, not full-bodied, it's medium to full-bodied. They're quite rich. All right, last coffee before the finals. A little bit more sweetness, a little bit, just a hint more sweetness and acidity in this cup than this cup. They're both fairly medium, edging on full-bodied. And I would say I've probably turned down a couple of bags of beans already that have been better than this lot. But that's just how the dice rolls there. This one is by far better than this one though, just in terms of its sweetness and acidity. There is some in this cup and there's not much in this cup. So this one goes forwards. All right, everybody, the moment we've been waiting for, the last 3 espressos out of the 12 bags of beans that I picked from the supermarket, Coles, Australia's largest supermarket. And blind tasting my way through, there have been some good cups and there have been some bad cups. Now, this is indicative of today's tests and yesterday's. It's indicative of my taste buds and what I find delicious. I just want to reiterate, I've been looking for some fruit sweetness and acidity, something that's fruit forward, something that's medium bodied, medium roasted coffee, nothing too dark, nothing too overly roasted, ashy or bitter, but just something pleasant that I could happily drink to my own preferences, something black, long black, macchiato, perhaps a piccolo, but it would certainly work just as well in, say, a small flat white or latte as well. I do find that darker roasted coffees tend to work better when you add more milk to them. So they'll balance the creaminess of the milk. The more roasted, the darker roasted it is, the more it will be able to cut through with milk. Long story short, I've got 3 more espressos to taste. It's bright, it's sweet, it belongs here. It doesn't have as much body, so it's quite clean off the palate, which is nice. There's some fruitiness to it. I wouldn't particularly go diving in and calling out what flavor notes there are, but there's a fruit note quality to it, which is enjoyable. As much fruit quality as this, but probably just a little bit fresher. There's a hint of there's a hint of more fresher fruit, more riper fruit in this one than this is. This had that fruit-like quality. It was sweet. It was acidic. It had some sort of body, but not a lot. This just has a little bit of freshness to it, a little bit more ripeness. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit more ripeness. Almost green. This is just a little bit riper than this one. So at the moment, this one's jumping forwards at me. These two are similar. This one's the one that is not. Much richer, darker, full-bodied, creamy. Not what I'm looking for. Not the fruits in the cup, not the sweetness, not the acidity. It's still a nice cup of coffee, but it would probably predominantly be enjoyed with milk. Now, I'm not suggesting that any of these are just black coffees or any are just milk coffees. You drink to your preferences, but out of these two now, I would probably put this one forwards as the one that is the winner. What is this one? What is this one? All right. The white. Interesting. So we had Daley Street Medium, Sensory Lab, and Caffe Aurora. Now the Sensory Lab coffee, Steadfast Espresso blend. Tastes like milk chocolate, golden raisins. I wouldn't disagree with that. It's a Colombian and Brazilian, roasted in Australia. Yeah, that's really nice. That's a really enjoyable, fresh cup of coffee. And there you have it, everybody. The taste test of 12 different bags of coffee handpicked from Coles supermarkets. And I have to say, while there were some standouts, overall and on a personal level, buying supermarket coffee isn't exactly high up on my list. Sure, supermarket coffee has come a long way in recent years, and there are certainly decent options out there, but at the end of the day, I consider it is mass produced for the supply across a huge network. They use extensive shelf lives on the beans, and I would say prices don't always reflect the quality of the beans that you're consuming. If you are looking for a truly enjoyable coffee experience, my advice is to do your research and look beyond supermarket shelves to your local roasters, as these do offer a level of transparency and quality that you just can't get when you're mass producing coffee. Plus, many of these roasters prioritize sustainability and ethical sourcing, which we know are great staging points for adding value back into the supply chain. Now, of course, I'm not saying that supermarket coffee doesn't do this or it's a bad choice, as it is certainly convenient and budget friendly. But if you want to take your coffee game to the next level, I highly recommend exploring your options beyond the supermarket shelves. Thanks again for following me on my caffeine-fueled adventures. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. I need to drink more water.